us, I also want us to notice that the whole house smelled good. The whole house smelled good. It says that she broke the jar. She poured it on Jesus' head. She was weeping. She was crying. But the entire atmosphere of the house changed when she brought what she had. The whole house was filled with the fragrance, verse 3 says, of the perfume in John 12:3. So I've had COVID twice in 2021 and then 2022. And in 2021, I lost my taste. And then in 2022, I lost my smell. So for 2 years straight, I didn't have any taste or any smell. The one thing I will tell you is that when you have a lot of boys in your house, and you go on like car rides and things happen, not being able to smell that was a good thing. I'm just saying. The boys would start laughing in the back because my husband also lost his smell, and we could not smell a thing, and they would just giggle because they knew. So there are a few smells that I was kind of glad I couldn't smell, but I've missed being able to smell. I never realized how much we smell things when we walk in until I lost my smell. So, you walk in and someone's like, oh, it smells so good. And I'd be like, really? What does it smell like? And they're like, it smells like chocolate chip cookies. And I remember that smell. That's a really good smell. And so my taste had started to come back just a little. I would kind of describe it as about 30%, but I've just been praying. I believe that God can heal. So I'm like, he's bigger than COVID. He's bigger than this. Jesus, heal my taste, heal my smell. And so about a month ago, I was actually in a church in New York, and I was speaking at a conference like this with their sisterhood. On the opening night, they had piped in some smell that apparently was amazing, and everyone was talking about it. I was like, that's great. Got nothing. And that night I'm in the service. I'm like, God, I'm good if you never heal me. Like, I get it, but in my weakness, you'll be strong and all of that. Like, I'm good. But I believe you can heal me, and I'm going to keep asking. I'm going to keep knocking. And so the next morning, just a normal morning, I get up and I'm preparing. I'm coming back to speak the next day. And I walk in, and I kid you not, I walked in, I opened the doors, and I smelled cinnamon. For the first time in over 2 years, I started to weep. I was like, oh, that smells so good. And I said to my sister who was there, I was like, there's something good, right? There's something good that smells good. And she was like, yes, let's go find it. And it was French toast sticks. I was so excited. I could smell those. And I am telling you, everything changed for me that day. I was like, I can smell something good again. I can smell something good. Filled the whole house. The fragrance filled the whole house, and the joy came back to me that day. You see, fragrance brings back feelings and emotions and memories. So I have a question for us, DPM. What does your house smell like? What do you smell like? What do we smell like? I'm not talking about a physical smell. I'm talking about the fragrance of our life, of our speech, of our countenance. What do we smell like when we walk into a room? Do we smell like the fruit of the Spirit? When we walk into a room, is it, man, she's full of love and joy and peace. Woo, I see patience on her even when traffic is rough, right? Woo, do we smell like kindness and goodness and faithfulness and gentleness? Do we smell like self-control? Or do we smell like bitterness? Do we smell like control? Do we smell like pride or unforgiveness? Do we smell like anger? Do we smell like fear? Do we smell like gossip or judgment? Do we smell like shame? Do we smell like guilt? Condemnation? What would our friends say we smell like? What would our spouse say? What would our kids say? Years ago, my son Will was about 11, and maybe he's a little younger than that, 10 or 11, and we were living in a second-story home, and I was in the kitchen, and I've struggled a lot with perfectionism. I actually shared that last year, I believe, and God has set me free from so much. I'm so thankful for his grace and his mercy. And I was standing in the kitchen, and I was in the middle of God just starting to reveal things to me that did not smell good in my life. And I was standing in the kitchen. My son, Will, had the biggest smile on his face. And he's skipping down, ready for school. And he was probably even like singing. He was like so happy. And he started to skip down those stairs. And I was in the kitchen, and I looked at him, and his entire countenance changed. And the Holy Spirit said, "What just happened?" And I was like, "What just happened?" And all of a sudden, I felt the Holy Spirit say, "Sarah, you've smelled like perfection, and he expects that reaction from you." And in that moment, I pulled Will aside, and I said, "Hey, Will, I'm so sorry. I just need to tell you I'm sorry for every time that I've looked at you and thought about the things that were wrong before I noticed what was right." And he said, "Mom, you're forgiven." And I gave him the biggest hug. And I felt that day like the Holy Spirit said, "Sarah, from now on, you smile before you ever think about anything that needs to change. You speak words of life before you ever think about what is wrong. You speak into him those things that aren't there yet, because your life needs to smell like that. Your son needs to smell like that. You don't want him walking around thinking that he has to be perfect." And I thank God for his grace. You see, the great news is that with one turn toward Jesus, all of that can change. There's forgiveness, there's grace,